Aloha! My name is Daniele Spirandelli, and I'm an assistant professor of coastal policy and community development with the Department of Urban and Regional Planning at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. The University of Hawaii Sea-Grant College Program, otherwise known as Hawai'i Sea-Grant, is based at the University of Hawaii at Manoa in Honolulu, Hawaii. Hawai'i Sea-Grant supports an innovative program of research, education, and extension services directed to the improved understanding and stewardship of coastal and marine resources of the state, region, and nation. Hawai'i Sea-Grant Podcast Number 3, Urban Understandings and Changing Coasts.
Aloha and welcome to our 321 podcast. My name is Mahealani.
And this is Rachel.
This is Danielle.
And I'm Theresa.
And we are part of Hawai'i Sea-Grant and the University of Hawaii, located in Honolulu, Hawaii.
This podcast features research supported by Hawai'i Sea-Grant. Each episode will highlight a new project and the people that make that project possible.
We will ask these researchers for 3 words that describe their research, give them 2 minutes to explain how their research benefits communities here in Hawaii, and end by asking them to provide one thing they know about each other than their research. So 3 words, 2 minutes, and 1 thing. It's a 3-2-1 podcast. Have you heard of the term liquid sunshine?
Sure.
No.
What? Where are you from?
I grew up in San Diego.
Los Angeles.
San Francisco.
California natives.
Yeah.
Huh. So San Fran probably has a lot of liquid sunshine, I'm guessing.
Some years.
Yeah, we have a lot of liquid sunshine here. We have actually a liquid sunshine season and then a dry season.
Oh, so what is liquid sunshine?
It's actually another way to say rain.
Oh, well, lately it seems like there's been a lot of liquid sunshine.
Well, too much liquid sunshine can cause a lot of problems.
Especially to coastal cities.
A lot of rain and potentially more storms. Sounds like this could be a problem for the Aloha State.
Yeah. Yep.
So what are 3 words that describe your research?
Health, institutions, and poop.
Did you say poop?
I sure did.
What? That caught me off guard just for a second there. I'm still trying to recover here. So I'm going to ask you your 3 words, health, institutions, and poop. So why those 3 words?
Well, when I was a PhD student and I was still trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to study and focus on, I sat down with my advisor and she asked me, what do you want to focus on in terms of research? And that was what I answered, health and poop.
Okay.
What made you want to study poop?
Well, it's an important part of our city, isn't it?
It's natural.
That's true. It's everywhere.
We tend to do a lot of work on water use, recycling,
Right.
energy. That there's very much less about how we manage our poop.
That's true. You really don't think about it.
Don't really want to, usually.
No, not really.
No.
Okay. Now, institutions.
What about that?
What about that? Where did that come from?
Well, when you're looking at sewer systems, you're looking not only at the infrastructure itself, the pipes, the pump stations, and the treatment plant, but you're also looking at the agencies and the planning departments that manage those systems. So that's the institutional perspective.
We're learning about urban infrastructures and coastal climate in this podcast, and here to share their research are Dr. Daniele Spirandelli and her graduate student, Theresa Dean.
Well, aloha and welcome. Before we ask you how your research benefits communities here in Hawaii, let's talk about a few scientific words. 3 words that you use a lot in your research are climate change, inundation, and vulnerability. Can you provide definitions for these words?
Well, when we think about the climate, we tend to think about our everyday, sun and rain, and it does change from day to day. But climate change is really about the long term, and things that we don't really think about in the long term that are changing is things like our rising seas. We're having punctuated large storms that are unexpected, and we can also have longer and unexpected droughts in some parts of the world.
So these increased severity in storms and rising seas ultimately mean flooding, especially along the low-lying coastal areas. So for inundation, you're really looking at how these increased rates in rainfall and the rising seas will ultimately cause flooding around the coast.
So the last word, vulnerability. So when you say you're vulnerable, right, people know what that means. How do you use this word in your research?
Well, I think there's two perspectives that you can take on vulnerability. There's the vulnerability to the sewer systems themselves. And so we're talking about the physical aspects of the sewer system that may cause it to go wrong with increased rates of rainfall and sea level rise. But you're also looking at the communities that are impacted. So what happens when the infrastructure fails? The communities that rely on these infrastructures are impacted. In some cases, you could see services to the communities that are serviced by those pipes stop. So that means you can't flush your toilet, you can't use your sink, and that has huge impacts.
So tell us in 2 minutes or less how your research benefits the communities here in Hawaii.
You don't know.
I don't know. I think the big main thing that we're trying to do with this research is really try to raise awareness. That's probably the number one effort, is to try and get the various different institutions thinking about this problem, because even though it may be somewhat way off in terms of the largest impacts, we need to start preparing now, because it's going to cost a lot of money, and it's going to mean strategizing over periods of time to figure out solutions. And so with this research, we're trying to understand both how the system might be more vulnerable, but then at the same time, trigger ideas and thoughts and innovative solutions to how we might solve the problem. And that's not going to come from any one particular individual researcher or agency. It's really going to be a collective effort among many.
And you're part of that collective group of people that are working toward that common understanding, right?
Yep.
So let's recap. When asked to provide 3 words that describe your research, you said health, institutions, and, wait for it, poop. You provided definitions for 3 scientific words that are commonly used with your research. These words were climate change, inundation, and vulnerability. We've learned about your research and how your research will help communities here in Hawaii. So let's get technical. How do you do your research?
One of the things we're trying to understand is sort of a more nuanced understanding of how our system is vulnerable. And by doing that, we are interviewing a whole host of different stakeholders that both care about the system, care about the problem, and also have a intimate understanding of some of the challenges.
So what is a stakeholder?
So a stakeholder is somebody who is involved in the problem or in the challenge itself and has a perspective or a view on it.
Okay, so that could be somebody who lives in an area that is more or less vulnerable.
Yeah, it could be a community member, and maybe it's somebody who actually participates within the neighborhood board, and so they feel like they have a responsibility to be able to understand things and also have a voice to either share or pass on information. We're combining the social science with more technical analyses, which involve both mapping and modeling efforts so that we can better understand some of the sensitivities to our system.
Well, that's a wrap. But before we go, we want to ask you, Danielle, what is one thing you know about Theresa other than her research?
I know that she's a twin.
A twin!
Are you serious?
I didn't know
true.
that.
I didn't know that. I've known you for a long time, and I had no idea. That's crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
Crazy good, though. Not, crazy good.
Well, Theresa, what is one thing you know about Danielle other than her research?
Well, the funny thing is, she has twin girls.
What?
That works out.
You're a mother of twins and you're a twin?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. It's one of the first things we learned about each other.
That's cool. I guess today we're just twinning. All right, well, stay tuned for our next podcast, and mahalo for listening. Aloha.
Aloha.
This Hawai'i Sea Grant 321 podcast featured 3 songs: Happiness by bensound.com, Ukulele by bensound.com, and Cute by bensound.com. Find it on iTunes or bensound.com.